Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The government shutdown deadline is just about a month away, and at the same time, Republicans are looking to pass President Trump's agenda with a separate budget plan. This all comes as the White House seems to be focused on New York. The Department of Justice yesterday sued New York and its leaders over its immigration policies. $80 million in FEMA funding, meanwhile, was withdrawn from the city, and the DOJ this week ordered Mayor Adams' corruption case to be tossed. Here now to talk more about all of this is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who represents parts of Brooklyn. Welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, great to be with you.
A lot of fast-moving developments today. Let me ask you about some of the news of the day. We seem to have something of a rebellion at the Justice Department and at the Southern District of New York, where there were resignations, including the acting U.S. Attorney Danielle Sassoon, who basically resigned rather than drop the case against Mayor Eric Adams. She also said in a letter that they had a superseding indictment prepared against Mayor Adams, in part for having destroyed evidence in his case. What is your reaction to all of that?
These are very troubling developments, and we're going to have to get some real answers to the questions that relate to how the Department of Justice directive came about relative to the dismissal of charges that was ordered, but ordered in a manner that would have allowed the Department of Justice to continue to bring those charges back, and effectively, seemingly, were designed to keep Eric Adams on a short leash. That's a very troubling situation.
So I know you've said that how the mayor responds to all of this will go a long way towards determining his political future. I mean, I wonder what you thought about what happened today. He met with the border czar, Tom Homan, here in New York, and afterwards he said that, among other things, he would be reestablishing the ability of ICE officers to operate on Rikers Island. I mean, is that a sign that Mayor Adams is, in fact, doing the bidding of Donald Trump?
Certainly a directive that we all need to closely scrutinize. From our standpoint in Washington, we need to secure the border. We have a broken immigration system that needs to be fixed in a comprehensive and in a bipartisan way. And at the same time, we have to make sure that we protect dreamers, farm workers, and families throughout the country. And anything that's done here in the city of New York should be consistent with those ideals. We are both a nation anchored in the rule of law and a nation of immigrants, and that certainly has been the case here in New York City throughout the great journey that has been the Big Apple.
I mean, a lot of people in New York, though, are concerned. A lot of Democratic elected officials are concerned that the mayor is working too closely with ICE on immigration enforcement. Obviously, we know that there's a huge crackdown going on directed by the Trump administration. Does that trouble you?
I think there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, particularly as it relates to the recommendation that the charges are dismissed without prejudice relative to Mayor Adams, and what connection that has to the increasingly close working relationship that has developed.
All right, let me ask you about some White House actions that have a big impact here on New York, including, as you know, this $80 million that had been appropriated to New York for migrant services. And then we learned yesterday that the federal government apparently came in and just clawed back that money out of an account controlled by New York City. What's your reaction to that?
House Democrats in New York City, partnering with Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand, fought hard to secure that funding. It was lawfully appropriated by the Congress and signed into law by the President of the United States of America. Withholding that funding is a violation of the law. And it's my expectation that the Attorney General of the state of New York or others are going to sue to secure that money as soon as possible. That's certainly litigation that the congressional delegation will support, and we will explore all avenues available to us from a congressional standpoint to make sure that those funds that are owed the city of New York, consistent with a law that is on the books, are received.
The Department of Justice is also clearly targeting New York. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, yesterday had a news conference where she basically condemned New York and its laws. She is suing the state, the governor, the state attorney general, the state DMV commissioner. What do you make of this lawsuit from Pam Bondi?
All of these things directed at the city and state of New York, including the most recent threat of a lawsuit, suggests to me that the Trump administration's priorities are all mixed up. Trump administration was supposed to drive down the high cost of living for the people here in New York City and across the country. Instead, the exact opposite has happened. Price of eggs skyrocketing out of control. Consumer goods are on the rise. Grocery prices are on the rise. The cost of living here in New York City and across the country hasn't gone down, it's gone up, because the Trump administration are clearly focused on the wrong things. And if this continues, I'm convinced that the people of New York and the country are going to hold the administration accountable for the failure to keep their word as it relates to improving the quality of life of everyday Americans.
How do you hold the White House accountable, though? Because, there's been criticism from the left, as you know, that Democratic leadership has been maybe too passive in fighting back against the White House. I mean, what power do you have to push back against the president?
Made clear that it's an all hands on deck effort, and we've got to push back in the Congress, push back in the courts, as well as push back in the community, and make sure that the public has a full understanding and awareness of the harms that are being unleashed on them by the far right extremism that continues to emerge from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's all hands on deck. And we're going to use every tool at our disposal to try to bring about the right results for the American people, to make life better for everyday Americans, to solve problems for hardworking taxpayers here in New York and across the country.
Is one of those tools potentially holding up votes in the House, including the appropriations bill?
Well, here's the thing. The budget that is being discussed as we speak right now in Washington, D.C., is a Republican budget that will likely cut Medicaid and other important programs like supplemental nutritional assistance for children, families, seniors, and veterans by upwards of $1 trillion. People are going to get hurt here in New York City and across the country as a result of this reckless Republican budget that is a betrayal of all of the promises they made with respect to improving the quality of life for working class Americans. And so, from our standpoint, in terms of the budget, which, as I indicated, is being debated before the Budget Committee right now and is likely to be on the House floor the week we return at the end of February, that is not something that we can support, because it's designed to bring about massive tax cuts for billionaires and wealthy corporations and to stick everyday New Yorkers and working class Americans with the bill.
Let me come back at you with another Mayor Adams question. We learned just in the last few minutes that one of your congressional colleagues, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is calling for the mayor to be removed. Was that something that you would support?
That's not a conversation that I've had with Representative Ocasio-Cortez or with the governor, who's the only individual who apparently has the power to do that. And so I'm going to reserve judgment until those conversations are had.
Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.